Hey everyone, this is me, Lance Mike Stranded Viking. I debated with myself several times as to whether or not I was going to do this, and yeah, I know that's like it sounds like it's like some sort of part of a hyperbolic opening, and it isn't. And if you've been a long time fan of this channel, because I've been around now for 10 years or so, you'll know that I don't write these things out. I don't make outlines. I don't, I just talk when I feel like it. So this is going to be a bit of a rant, about some things that have been bugging me lately, that have to do squarely with D&D and like channels and what they do and what they say. And it's not going to be like I a lot of times, like with these rants, they have a lot to do with like really specifically saying this sucks and this is why it sucks and there's no room. I'm kind of always, for the most part, in a lot of these things, I kind of try to see things from both sides of the coin. There are some things I just absolutely won't see from both sides of the coin because I really feel the way that I feel is correct. But but I don't want to get really, well, technically political here. So I'm not going to really dive into that. But so over the last like good year or so, um, I've become involved more online in some like either online groups or friends with people that are role-playing game publishers, and I've had lengthy discussions with a few of them. I've experienced a great deal of uh, uh, gaming outside of my shell. I've said this a few times in a few videos where I am like extremely lucky in the fact that I have a D&D group, where I have been playing D&D, with some of the people in that group, for decades. And to a person, there are people that I have known for over a decade. Even the newest player that we have in our group, my friend Trevor, I worked with him at US Bank for a long time, before I eventually left there and I became part of the board game industry. He still works with my wife, and like, yeah, so in the last year or so he's joined our D&D group and played, but he's somebody I've known forever. But people like Craig, Jason, Joel, Brad, um they are four people that I have known since, in some cases grade school, in other cases college, and we've been playing D&D forever. And it is something that I realize that I'm very fortunate to have that. And I've also talked at length about the fact that like we don't really play any published version of D&D. This little ream of paper called ED&D was first created by us in high school, and we have been using that, instead of any sort of published rule set, forever. I mean, that's changed many times over. So I kind of feel like I am away from, like, removed, I should say is a better word, removed from the role playing game industry in a great deal. And so I don't play fifth edition D&D. I mean, my son, when he has his gaming group together, they play kind of a mishmash of like Dungeon Crawl Classics, Shadow Dark, my version of the game, and fifth edition. They just throw whatever rules they want to together and play by those. And they try to, make that be what they play, and they have a lot of fun with it. So I'm not gonna, judge that. I mean, my son actually today is going to his first ever day of D&D club at school after school's over, and he's a little worried about the fact that like the rules may not be something that he exactly understands. And I said, don't worry about it. Just that's going to be a more structured situation, and that's just for the ease of use for the person that's running it. A teacher, his robotics teacher is actually teaching that, is going to handle that club. I said it's only for a couple of hours, and I said you're going to be exposed to other people and other situations, and I think it'll be good for you. So he's going to try it out, see how it goes, and then we'll go from there. But okay, this is all kind of laying the groundwork of this rant that I'm going to have. That I recently, and I don't want to name drop anything, but I recently was in a discussion with some fairly prominent people that I respect a great deal in the board game industry. People that have been publishing RPGs for a long time, people that have been part of major publishing companies, and it's we've had these discussions about the old grognards, and which I consider myself one. I've talked a little bit about when I got exposed to D&D. I was exposed to D&D. I can't pinpoint an exact year. I knew I was like in grade school. I was 6 or 7 years old, which would make that 1977, 1978. My older brother played it with some of his friends who, like, it was like a friend of his older brother had the rules, and they exposed them to D&D, and then he came home and told me about D&D, and then I wanted to play it, and then my mother bought me rule books and anything that came out for D&D. I was very fortunate. I lived in a situation where the satanic panic didn't really bother my mother at all. The church that I'm still a member of, never really had an issue with it. They didn't get absorbed into the D&D is evil thing going on. So I basically played D&D from like when I was in first or second grade until, well, today. So all of that. So I do firmly believe that no, I didn't. I am in my 50s, early 50s. So I'm not as much of an old grognard as some of the old grognards. I didn't cut my teeth on old war games or anything like that. I didn't. But I do feel like I started playing D&D very, very close to the very, very beginning. And whether or not that is a badge of honor or whatever to wear, I don't know. But I do feel like if you're going to reference grognards or what have you, I am one of them. But my issue is that, and I run into this a lot, is that, and I'll fully admit that I have definitely had some of these feelings when D&D really started to take off, and became more and more popular. I remembered the fact that like I was shunned by the popular groups in like not so much high school, but definitely in middle school, as we called it, junior high up here in the upper Midwest, in grade school. It was definitely a fair amount of disdain and outright bullying. I won't go into full detail, but thankfully I hit my growth spurt pretty pretty early. I was like over the summer of sixth grade. I got, so like the bullying didn't really come at me as much as it came to some of my friends who were smaller. But it was one of those things where we dealt with a little bit of uh some hard knocks, if you will. I don't even know how to even pronounce that, or how to dictate it, but you've all grown up, you know what that's like, and it sucks that you go through that. But so in a way, it's like, oh wow, D&D is super, 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 super powerful right now. And then it's one of those things where it's like, well, you had no idea how tough it was. And we kind of tend to do that as human beings. Like if we had to go through some sort of trial or exacting situation in our lives, and then we see somebody else come along and they get the benefits of what we've gone through, and they don't have to go through any of that trial, that difficulty. It is completely, I think, completely natural for people to like feel like, hey, that's not fair. And the idea of that's not fair is like a really normal feeling to have, and we see it, and I know I wasn't going to get political, but we saw it like in a lot of cases, like as far as um like, well, we're going to try to uh uh make it so we're going to forgive student loan debt, things like that, and it was like, well, wait a minute, I paid off all my student loans and I paid off my student loans. But why should you get to, and it's just like, well, maybe because it's the right thing to do, I mean, it's just kind of like, I mean, and I don't want to go too far into the rabbit hole there, but it kind of goes to the mentality of like, I had to suffer, you should have to suffer too. And when you actually say it out loud like that, where like, I had to suffer and it sucked, I got bullied and I got told I was stupid and a nerd and a total loser, and it made me feel bad about myself, and I hated myself, and I just thought it sucked, and I was just, it was the worst thing ever, and I think it was like, I just wanted to like not even go to school, and I wanted to like just cry when I got home. You should have to do with that too. I mean, if you say it out loud like that, it's the most freaking ridiculous thing to say. It's like, oh wow, this really really shitty thing that I had to go through really really sucked, but you should have to experience it as well. And so, when I look at it under that lens, it's kind of like, and I guess I feel like a lot of this hatred towards, and it is hatred, I mean, it is, and I define hatred as being like a really really amount of disdain or anger or whatever against something or a person or a group or whatever, that really doesn't have that is based off of like some sort of emotional, like I guess emotional dissatisfaction or emotional inequality, I guess. I'm not explaining that really well. And I think that there's absolutely good reasons to hate things. There's absolutely 100%. And a lot of cases, the reasons why somebody might hate something will be completely different why somebody else will hate something. And I'm not here to judge what is or isn't wrong. I mean, I'll gladly tell you. I mean, if you ever ask me, oh, why do you hate that? I don't really hate anything. I mean, that's one of the things where it's like, I remember, um, I think I forget who told me this, and it wasn't like, it's usually one of my grandparents they gave me a lot of wisdom when I was growing up, but it was like if you hate something, you're giving it so much of your energy, and most of the time that thing doesn't even know or care how you feel. And so why give it that energy? Just your, but whatever. Some people just get some sort of glee out of hating things, and who am I to stop you, I guess. But um there's this mentality that I've discovered that they don't people don't like the newest version of D&D, and they don't like the way it's made, they don't like the people that play it, and they don't like the rules that they play with, and blah 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 blah. And things were so much better when we played, first edition or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons or Blueholme or Beck Me or whatever. Things were so much better when we played it like that. And that's fine. You can feel that way. But the problem is that they always want to stuff politics into everything. And I'm fine with politics being a part of things that aren't inherently political. I mean, because politics has a way of like insinuating itself into everything. But the problem is that, and it's just common sense. As we get older, we become very set in our ways, and we can become very much in, like, our brains have this rigidity to them of like what we thought was really fun was the best version of that fun that ever could be. Just like my kids are going to think of the fact that, like, when they were growing up and they were teenagers and when they experienced life like this was the best. The music was the best, the TV was the best, the movies were the best, the games were the best, whatever. And as you get older, your ability to adapt and willingness to adapt to the new thing gets more and more difficult for you to pull off. And this isn't something new. This is something that's been going on forever. I mean, it's like you can find old like newspapers from like the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, and they talk about these newfangled kids and their whatever like is going to lead to the ruin of like modern society. And you know what? It doesn't. It doesn't. You know why? Because the old people that like things the way they have, they die. That's or they adapt, and then they die, and then eventually, and it's this circle that just keeps churning and churning and churning. And so when I see these old grognards talking about, oh, I hate this woke bullshit that I'm being forced to eat. Well, first of all, fuck you. You're not being forced to eat anything. You don't you don't watch you don't play the new version of D&D, and even if you did, you're not using the rules that are in there. You don't, I mean, you're not reading the parts that are political. You don't give a shit. You just want to fucking complain. And this is where I'm gonna start ranting. And the thing is that a lot of these and I'm gonna say dudes, because I mean, it is mostly old white men. Men that are like my age or a little older or a little younger, but you know what I'm talking about. It is old white pieces of shit that are just sitting there on their little high horse, ruling over their little domain of whatever it is that they do, and they're just looking down their nose at these young kids with their progressive attitudes, and they're wanting to, like, I don't know, be like safeguard people that might have like issues with certain aspects of D&D, or they don't like the fact that orcs are wearing goofy sombreros in a picture in a book that they're never gonna fucking buy. I mean, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? They're ruining the game that I played. It's like, no, they aren't. If you want to fucking complain about WotC or Hasbro, go for it, because it's a giant fucking corporation that it reads on capitalism and wants like basically to make money, and they don't give a shit about how they do it. If they're gonna, if like, oh, it's like they sent Pinkertons after this guy with his Magic the Gathering thing. Yeah, okay, fine. That was a shitty fucking look, and they shouldn't have done it. But nobody talks about it anymore, except for like the seven fucking people that want to bring it up constantly as their like little flag they wanna push up. And this is why Hasbro is horrible. In the actuality, they're just using that as a tent pole to hold up the thing. But what they really fucking don't like is they don't like the fact that like that basically their little cultured hobby that they used to have, that was a safe place for old white men to be in, who could like espouse from the mountains on high, talking about what they felt and what they thought, and they were used to people saying, "Oh, it sounds so amazing what you used to play," and all of a sudden their hobbies left them behind and has gone off to do it, and they're making literally millions and millions of dollars selling those books, and the way that they used to play it and the way they used to do it isn't part of that freaking money chain. And I realize that I'm like I am totally realize that I'm oversimplifying this bullshit, and I am doing it. But it's just astounding to me that you run into these people, either in person. I ran into these people in person. I ran into these people online that are like, just, oh, these WotC fucktards and their woke bullshit have ruined the game. No, they haven't ruined the fucking game. They made a version of the game you don't want to play. You're still fucking playing your game at your table, being as sexist or as racist or as misogynist or whatever you want to be at your fucking table with the same freaking people that you've been playing with forever, that don't care or want to be it. And that's fine. You can go ahead and be that way as long as you're not infecting other people with your outdated, horrible fucking views. But here's the deal. It's like, but that's not, but they don't care. They realize that if they go and they sit at their table and they play the game the way they used to play it, and they play it the way they wanted to play it, like, they realize that when they're dead, nobody's going to want to play the game like they played it anymore. And that scares them, and that hurts them, and that bothers them. And it's just it's I hate to say it's not everybody. It definitely isn't everybody. But I hate to say that it's just a bunch of man children. But it's just immature. It's people that haven't accepted the fact of their own mortality. That one day they won't be here anymore, and the things that they loved and they enjoyed and that they thought were important to them will be forgotten. And yeah, that sucks. And I mean, I'm not looking forward to being dead in any way, shape, or form. And but I do love the fact that my son and my daughter both play D&D and both play role-playing games, and they really enjoy it. And they really enjoy it and they play it because of me, because I introduced it to them, and I showed them something that allowed them to use their imagination and their love of hanging out with their friends and making up adventures in their mind and doing things. And they love doing that. And I take pride in the fact that I instilled that in them. And I love the fact, and I also love the fact that both of them are doing things that I definitely did not convince them to do. But like my daughter's in theater and like loves being part of being a stage play, and like she's had parts in productions. My son is in Taekwondo. He's a black belt in Taekwondo, something I never would have thought to do in my life, but he's done it. I mean, and there's tons of other stuff where like because they're growing up to be their own person and they're growing up to be their own people, but they've definitely taken parts of the fact, parts of me, parts of my hobbies, parts of the things that I love, and it's part of them now. And then that means that when they have kids, if they have kids, I'm not saying they have to. If they have kids, they will take that little part of me that was part of them, and then that will be a part of their kids, and I'll be able to see that in my grandchildren if I ever have any. And the thing is, that's the case. Like with my dad. My dad taught me to love to fish and go to the lake and be out and enjoying the outdoors. His dad did the same thing for him, and then that is part of what I did. Like I really enjoy playing basketball, just like my grandfather loved to play basketball. And my dad loved to play basketball. I still love, I love to play. I haven't played it in many years, but I used to love playing basketball. My grandparents on my mother's side, they loved to read. They enjoyed reading, and they enjoyed like big dinners with families, and that's something that I still enjoy. And that's something we pass down. But I'm definitely nothing like in a lot of ways my grandparents on either side of my family, or my parents, for that matter, because we branch out and we do other things. And but it's the problem is that you get to a point where it's just like you see the world passing you by. The music is no longer for you. Movies are no longer for you. TVs are no longer for you. And I don't like that. I'll fully admit that. Like, why is it that I can't get a Metallica album that sounds like Master of Puppets anymore? It's just because, well, they just don't make that stuff anymore. Why is it that the movies that I used to enjoy aren't being made? Well, because there isn't enough people in my demographic that's going to be there. And that's the exact same reason why Hasbro and WotC then make the D&D stuff that they make, because they know that the vast majority of people that are going to spend money are these people in their 20s and their 30s and earlier, in like in the teens, 20s and 30s, that they're the ones buying books. They're the ones that are make the money. It has nothing to do with anything they not liking grognards or old school D&D people. It's just we don't have enough money anymore to make it profitable for them to make stuff for us. But it doesn't fucking matter. I mean, it's just and this misguided hate or anger over like, oh, you're putting too much politics in my games. Well, it's like, and let's just why is this like the thing I'm talking about the most is because there's like this new groundswell of like, oh, Elon Musk is gonna buy Hasbro or whatever. First of all, he's not going to. He's just not going to. I mean, maybe he will. I mean, what, 10% chance, 5% chance, or whatever, that's gonna happen. But it's just not gonna fucking happen. It's just yet another fucking tweet that fucking loon is sent out into the world to be listened to and to be heard, and then just and like seeing like throwing spaghetti against the wall to see if it sticks. And the chances are this one isn't going to stick. But all these people are like, oh, the savior, he's gonna, even if he did, he's still a guy who just wants to make money. That's what it is. And if he wants to make money, he's going to continue the process of making that money. And And I get it. All right, I get it. I understand why stuff like that is exciting for people because it's fucking news. And this is another thing I wanted to talk about, but I mean I'm just going to touch on this really lightly. You know, I I despise nearly all role-playing game YouTube channels. There's a few out there that I actually really like. Mages Musing, Questing Beast, and, I mean, I apologize. There's a few others that I watch on a semi-regular basis or things like that. Just I think they put out quality content, and also they, for the most part, do not, chat like chase the clickbait title and chase the and trust me, I get it. I understand if you've turned your YouTube channel into your job, into an income stream, you can't you either have to get lucky and figure out what you do normally is going to entertain and get people to want to watch you, or you need to follow a trend and shove out a clickbait title and to get people to click on it and watch you and what have you and get those people coming back for more over and over again. But I just like them. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where it's like I eventually just unsubscribe from those channels because, I mean, and God bless them. God bless them. And I'm not going to call out any of those channels by name or anything like that. If you watch this, you know what, you can probably guess who I'm talking about. But God bless them. I hope they make millions and millions and millions of dollars. But it's not just for me. And truth be told, it's like judging from the number of views they get and the number of subscribers they have and everything like that. It is working for them, and God bless them again. Go for it. I mean, I remember sitting there thinking, if I could do that, would I do it? And I was like, no, because it would be so much goddamn work chasing those trends and putting those videos together. I and also I would hate myself for making that stuff. I just would, because it would just be like my final throw in the towel because I'd be saying shit I didn't believe. I'd be saying stuff that I didn't actually think was the case, and I'd be saying stuff that I would just be finding, what's the most recent thing people want to complain and cry about? Well, I better do something about that, and I just, no thanks. But anyway, so I don't know. I don't even know how I'm gonna wrap this up. I was considering talking about this stuff for a long time, and by a long time I mean a couple of weeks. And I guess it just finally kind of got to a point where it went into overflow for me, and I had to kind of rant about this stuff. So, if you got thoughts about anything that I said, that was a lot of stuff. Please, give me a comment. Let me know hit the like, hit the subscribe, do the things. And if you think like I do, or if you think I'm a fucking loon, let me know and tell me what you think. And I could be absolutely wrong on so much of this stuff, and I accept the fact that I could be absolutely wrong on so much of this stuff. And I'm willing to have my mind be changed. And I know that's kind of one of those bullshit things where people on the internet, oh, I'm asking an honest question. What do you think about? It isn't like that. It's you know, I've been wrong so many times in my life that I'm willing to listen to people who are way smarter than me about a lot of things, telling me, hey, actually check this out and watch this or read this and see, and this might change your mind. And I'd be happy to do it. But I mean, I guess the takeaways here are Elon Musk is not buying Hasbro. Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast are evil by nature because they're a capitalist corporation who doesn't care about anything except for making money, and they really don't care about whether or not the grognards have what they want. And they really don't. And if woke shit didn't make money, they wouldn't make woke shit. So whatever. What does that tell you? If they're putting out absolute fucking garbage, as you say, all these fucking morons. They're putting out all this garbage. I can't believe people buy it. Really? It's like they're putting out garbage. Your garbage is stuff that people want. So I don't know. Get over it. Three. I am just I have gotten to a point where uh I just really, and I realize they are vocal minorities, right, of the group. Like the vast majority of gamers my age are not part of this crowd that is anti whatever, you know what I'm talking about. They are willing to let, hey, you like your version of D&D that you're playing, you play that, I'll play mine, and we can both just enjoy the hobby, and it doesn't really matter when we're together. So, yeah, anyway, those are my takeaways. Until next time, until the next time I feel like I need to rant about something, we'll talk then. All right, goodbye.